Your dog is friendly. You know this. You have seen them be friendly. And yet there is one specific person, or maybe a specific type of person, who makes your dog's posture change the moment they walk in the room. The tail goes lower, the body stiffens, a low rumble that you feel more than you hear. And you are doing the thing where you apologize to the guest while also trying to figure out what your dog is perceiving that you are missing. Welcome to Hidden Paw Signals. Today, we're going into the selective growl, why your dog reacts to certain people and not others, what they're actually picking up on, and what the behavior is telling you when it happens. Subscribe now because this one gets into canine sensory processing, social assessment, and how dogs read people in ways that we genuinely cannot replicate. Let us establish the first and most important thing. Growling is communication. It is not aggression, it is not bad behavior, and it is not something to immediately and firmly suppress. The growl is your dog communicating that they are uncomfortable with something about the current social situation. It is the warning signal before escalation, and a dog who is allowed to growl in appropriate context is a dog who is using their communication system correctly. Research on canine communication and aggression prevention, published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior, has documented that dogs who have their growling responses consistently suppressed through punishment are more likely to skip the warning signal and escalate directly to more serious responses, because the warning has been trained out of their behavioral repertoire. The growl is information. It is telling you something is wrong in this interaction. The right response is to take the communication seriously and manage the situation, not to eliminate the signal. Your dog does this too, right? Is there a specific person, or a type of person, or a specific context with certain people that reliably triggers this response? Drop it in the comments because the specificity is very useful for understanding what the dog is actually responding to. Now, what is your dog actually detecting when they differentiate between people they're comfortable with and people they are not? The answer involves multiple sensory channels operating simultaneously. The most powerful is scent. Human emotional states, including anxiety, tension, and discomfort in social situations, produce measurable changes in body chemistry that are reflected in sweat and breath composition. Adrenaline, cortisol, and other stress-related compounds appear in detectable concentrations in human sweat and breath. Research on canine stress odor detection has established that dogs can reliably distinguish between the scent profile of a person in a stressed or anxious state and the same person in a calm, neutral state. A person who is themselves nervous around dogs, or who is anxious for any reason, or whose body chemistry is elevated by tension or discomfort in the social situation, is presenting a detectably different chemical signature than a person who is relaxed and comfortable. Your dog is reading that chemical information in real time. In many cases, the people your dog reacts to are people whose chemistry, at that moment, is broadcasting something the dog's social assessment system registers as a signal worth monitoring. Body language and movement pattern are equally significant contributors to the selective reaction. Research on biological motion perception and threat assessment in dogs has documented that dogs process the movement quality of approaching individuals and use subtle gait and postural features to make social assessments. A person who is stiff, who makes direct and unbroken eye contact during approach, who moves quickly and directly toward the dog, who leans over rather than beside when greeting, these behavioral characteristics map onto threat signals in canine social body language. The dog is reading movement pattern as social information, and certain movement patterns trigger a threat assessment response that is the starting point of the growl. Learning history also plays a significant role that is worth acknowledging.
Dogs generalize from specific experiences to broader categories. A dog who had a frightening experience with a specific type of person, a specific appearance, a specific movement style, a specific sound or smell category, may have generalized the fear response to others who share characteristics with the original experience, even characteristics you would not consciously identify as the relevant variable. The dog's categorization system may have latched on to a feature of the original experience that seems incidental from the outside, but was salient to the dog's processing in the moment. Understanding this does not excuse the reaction, but it helps explain reactions that seem inexplicable from the human perspective. From a management standpoint, the most effective approach involves taking the reaction seriously, managing the distance between the dog and the triggering person to keep the dog under threshold, and working systematically with a qualified trainer or veterinary behaviorist on building positive associations with the category of person or situation that triggers the response.
Suppressing the growl is not the solution. Addressing what the growl is communicating is the solution, and that requires professional guidance in most cases involving consistent growling. Your dog is not being aggressive. Your dog is communicating discomfort in the best way available to them. The job is to listen to what they are saying and respond to it appropriately. There is one more dimension worth understanding about the selective growl, which is what happens to it over time if the triggering situation continues to occur without management. Research on the escalation of fear and threat responses in domestic dogs has documented a predictable pattern. If the situation that produces a growl is repeatedly encountered and the dog's communication is either ignored or the dog is pushed through the discomfort without it being addressed, the behavior tends to escalate toward more intense responses over time rather than habituating and decreasing. The dog learns that the quiet communication does not change the situation, and the behavioral system selects for more intense signals on subsequent encounters. This is why many bite incidents in domestic dogs are described by their owners as coming without warning. The warning was there, but it was either not recognized or was deliberately suppressed through punishment, and the dog eventually skipped to a more effective signal. Understanding the growl as the warning it is and taking that warning seriously by managing the situation it emerges in is one of the most important safety practices available to dog owners. It is also, from the dog's welfare perspective, the most respectful response to an animal who is using their communication system correctly. Does the specific person or situation that triggers your dog's growl consistently produce this response, or is it variable? Consistency is meaningful. A dog who consistently growls at a specific person is providing reliable information about that specific social context. A dog whose growling is inconsistent or unpredictable may be responding to variables within the situation that are changing each time, and identifying those variables is the key to understanding and addressing the response. Working with a qualified professional is the right path forward for any dog whose growling causes concern, both for the dog's welfare and for the safety of the people in their environment. A useful reframe for living with a dog who shows selective growling toward specific people or situations: your dog is giving you real information about something real in the social environment they are both perceiving and evaluating. Taking that information seriously does not mean agreeing with the dog's assessment or accommodating fear indefinitely. It means starting from the understanding that the dog is communicating something meaningful and responding to the communication appropriately, which means managing the situation, addressing the underlying cause with professional help, and building toward a better outcome rather than simply suppressing the signal that tells you the situation needs work. Dogs who are heard when they growl, whose communication produces appropriate management and support from their owner, are dogs who can be helped.
Dogs whose growling is punished into silence may become quieter, but they have not become more comfortable, and the behavior that was producing the growl is still there, now without the warning. There is a category of selective growling that deserves specific mention because it is particularly common and particularly easy to misunderstand. Growling at children, particularly unfamiliar children or children engaging in exuberant, unpredictable movement. Children move differently from adults in ways that activate canine threat assessment systems more reliably. They are lower to the ground, their movements are faster and less predictable, their vocalizations are at higher frequencies, and their approach behavior often lacks the greeting protocol that dogs recognize as socially appropriate. A dog growling at a child is not an aggressive or dangerous dog by default. They are a dog whose threat assessment system is responding to a category of social stimuli that does not match any familiar pattern in a reassuring way. Managing this requires both immediate distance from the child and longer-term work building positive associations with child-specific movement and sounds, ideally with a qualified professional. Never correct a dog for growling at a child, because suppressing the warning is what removes the option of communication before escalation. Instead, manage the situation and address it with professional support. And to be clear about my sourcing, the research on canine communication, threat assessment, and the documented risks of suppressing growling all comes from the Journal of Veterinary Behavior and Applied Animal Behavior Science. I only work from peer-reviewed sources, especially on a safety topic like this one. Just a quick note before you go. Everything I share on this channel comes from my own research and learning journey. I am not a vet, I am not a scientist, and I am definitely not a certified dog behaviorist. This is just one person going way too deep into dog psychology and sharing what they found. So please, if your dog is showing any serious, sudden, or unusual symptoms, do not diagnose it with YouTube. Go see your actual vet. They went to school for this. I watched videos about it. Those are different things. And as always, this video was produced with the help of artificial intelligence. Thanks for watching Hidden Paw Signals. See you in the next one.